Hello and welcome to Future Lens. Today, I'm going to be in conversation with Zia Mody, the co-founder and managing partner of AZB and Partners. With over 4 decades of phenomenal work in mergers and acquisitions, private equity, corporate restructuring and cross-border transactions, she has pretty much redefined the contours of corporate law in India. Known for her sharp intellect, meticulous approach, and strategic thinking, she is an advisor to Indian and global companies alike. Beyond her legal practice, Zia serves on the boards and committees which take India to the next level of growth. Hello and welcome to ETH Insights. And today, I am with a legend, somebody whose body of work is so phenomenal that it will take years for us to decipher what went into the making of Zia Mody. Zia Mody, the founder and managing partner of AZB and Partners, is here with me today on ETH Insights, and we're going to talk about what it takes to create what she has done. And thank you very much for sparing time for
Thank you, Shubham.
ETH
It's a
Insights.
pleasure.
Let's begin with a story that all of us would like to know, where it all began. What influenced you to become a lawyer? And what was that one moment which steered you towards this decision? And what do you feel about it now?
Wanting to be a lawyer was very much because of my father, who was a lawyer. Seeing him interact on one side of the phone, there were no mobiles, there was a walkie-talkie at that time.
Yes.
Seeing him bark out instructions for the next day's matter, seeing him give his propositions on what he was going to say to the judge next day, all when I was in school, actually. But those sound bites remained. They were constant. And then as Papa grew busier, he was more in Delhi than in Bombay. But when he came down over the weekend, that story and narrative would continue. Then when I got older, I think that I very naturally wanted to be a lawyer. And then the studies started.
You saw the making of a legend as well in him, right?
He was a legend
Yeah.
already at that time, and he was arguing such fascinating cases, which even today are landmark and hallmark cases. And I never understood the import of those cases as a child. But now, of course, I do. And he was very much a human rights activist and a constitutional lawyer. I think commercial cases didn't interest him so much. On the other hand, as I have morphed into my present career, I'm much more a commercial lawyer. I have the adrenaline of looking at constitutional law. But at the age of 68, I would say I do more commercial law than constitutional law. So I think there was no defining moment. It was a given that I would do law. That was the way I felt about it anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was displeased about that either. My mother was very happy.
All right. So, very curious to know here, ma'am, how much of a mindset game is this? Because when you talk about lawyers who are senior to you, who have been in the business for very long, you're talking about senior judges. As a young lawyer, what's the mindset that you sort of inculcated, that you developed to take them on?
So my motto always was that I had to be better prepared than anybody else. And I had to chew up the brief more than anyone else, which means I had to know each fact better than anyone else. And I could not afford to miss any fact when I was either arguing myself or briefing my senior. Because, what is the real victory of knowing your case? It's knowing the case of the other side, and it's knowing what you need to demolish in advance. You don't want to be surprised by a list of dates or a circumstance which you had no clue about when you started arguing. And so you became a forensic litigator almost. But if I said this, what did he reply to that? And where is his reply? Did he not reply? And if he did reply, why is it not in the brief? And then if he did reply, then where is our reply to his reply? So foraging until you felt that you had not missed anything. And then always once you get the facts, the story in a way bounces out at you. Then you know the legal issues that come your way, what you are comfortable with, but more importantly, what you have to battle with.
Have things changed from there on?
I think for younger litigators, the passion to dive into an absolutely excruciating, detailed list of dates is maybe less. I always found that I was not going to consider myself adequately prepared if I didn't have that. I did not have to memorize it, but I had to have it on a sheet of paper, date by date by date by date, and chronologically. You can't say something happened in 80, then something happened in 82, and then something happened in 81. That's not a list of dates. It is how did the story grow, and how are you so on top of that story that even if you lose, you've not lost because you've lost the story.
What's the purpose that drives you to work and has been driving you to work for the past 4.5 decades now?
I very much enjoy the law. I very much enjoy challenges which come up even now very often. Today, it may not be that I'm arguing cases or really involved in those cases, but the ramifications of those cases on commercial documents, and of course, all the regulatory issues that come up with SEBI and other RBI and other regulators, is still something you have to be absolutely on top of. So if you're giving a piece of advice to somebody who's a regulated entity, if you don't know the latest circular of SEBI or RBI, you're at fault.
Let's talk a little more about the digital world. The digital world has also brought the world closer, and we are talking about a conversation which is very current and contemporary, which is on trade wars and tariffs. Let me try and understand from you, what is the role of a corporate lawyer here, especially when it comes to safeguarding interests of Indian companies globally or vice versa?
It's less legal, actually. It's more commercial and financial. And in any case, as we speak right now, we don't know what tariffs are going to be imposed on who.
Right.
One country says zero tariffs, another country said we never said zero tariffs, etc., etc., etc. So the dust has not settled. All we know is that from a business point of view, global supply chains will move depending on tariffs which are favorable or unfavorable. And basically, the way it will work is that I think, at least for India, if what is being printed is correct, India is very keen to have a bilateral agreement with the US, because then at least it knows with some degree of certainty where it can attract manufacturers to come to it compared to other countries, and where there is an incentive for India to continue its sweet spot in the manufacturing space. We are always good in the service space. As the Prime Minister keeps saying, make in India. All our PLI schemes and our incentives, they have attracted a lot of major multinational clients. The amount of global capability centers, the data centers, the e-commerce, the world is here. And it's obviously making money, otherwise people wouldn't come. So I think that the tariffs are right now just a very hot topic, but I don't think the dust has settled on the tariffs. So from a legal point of view, what do? Do you draft a document which says that I will pay you 100 rupees a share unless the goods on your tariff go up to another 100? I mean, it's difficult, speculative. So I think, therefore, that if there are going to be any deals which require a complete study of exports to the US or other countries, because it'll have a knock-on effect, those deals will wait till the dust settles.
All right. So let's talk about something that's closer to the ground. Let me talk about SMEs, the growth engine of the Indian economy. There is this movement in the ease of doing business in India, and it has moved up the rankings. India has moved up the rankings. But SMEs have this pain point on compliance. What reforms are needed in the system so that their pain points are addressed?
It's not so easy. Banks have to be willing to lend to SMEs who don't have the same credit rating as a Tata or a Reliance. They are reluctant to do that because they don't know what will turn into an NPA or not.
Right.
How much security the promoter of the SME is able to provide because he is an SME is limited. So I think cheaper funding, which is bank funding, is less available than it ought to be to the SMEs, which stifles their growth. Then if they want to grow, they have to go to private capital, which is much more expensive.
Mm.
An NBFC or, some other sort of debt funding vehicle.
Mm.
So, and then if you don't do well as an SME, you get into the debt trap. So I think the work of an SME is hard. I think the ones that grow slower at a steadier pace often have more peace of mind. The ones who don't want to miss the opportunity and grab that order and grab the next order and then, raise money to fund it, and then that order goes bad. I think also in terms of compliance, we've become a very regulated country, whether it's for listed companies or not. And I think the SMEs don't realize the amount of compliance that there is. It's not a malignancy. Much of it is ignorance. And suddenly something comes to bite them and they had no clue. And they feel that they are not wealthy enough to invest in a compliance officer or to look at external advice. And that's where the mistakes happen. And then they grow with experience. They don't make the same mistake, but they may make another mistake. So I think that we generally need to simplify the cost of compliance and the depth of compliance. And the way to do it is to then catch the bad actors and to forgive some mistakes.
So, what is your suggestion from a perspective of making it easier for them and changing the framework? So, compliance and making it easier in terms of compliance is one of the routes that you mentioned.
So one of the things is, make more violations easier to compound at a smaller cost and let life move on. Don't sort of rattle the saber every time there's something which is genuinely a mistake. Have banks hold the hands of the SMEs during difficult times and see how the SMEs can survive the turbulence of global tides as they are today, and accept that this is India's moment, so it won't go away soon. So they will have the opportunity. Today, so much of our SMEs are unorganized sectors, but they're so important and so large. So maybe as they grow bigger, formalizing themselves more, getting more into the real space, having proper contracts which give them rights and protections. Today, if they want a contract, they'll just sign where they're told to, and that may not really keep them whole during a time of turbulence or disputes. So I think educating themselves as promoters, growing up in a more balanced way, and having the government understand that there are crises which they need to not necessarily condone, but they don't have to make sure the SMEs aren't killed in the process.
Another very contemporary conversation is on ESG. From a regulatory framework, from a compliance framework and perspective, how important is this conversation?
It become more and more important because if E is for environment and G is for governance and S is for sustainability, that is now a accepted philosophy world over. In India, I think we are still at a nascent stage. Some are, of course, doing well, but most of us actually in the boardroom don't understand all these concepts unless you're a sophisticated board in a listed company. Governance is actually easier because if the heart is willing, the governance falls in place. And if there's nothing to hide and it's all transparent, then the governance is there for what it is. I think the social sustainability part is where we will take some time. Diversity, equal opportunity. That is where I think we need to really focus our boardroom energies and actually make it a mission and set ourselves goals year on year to do better.
Let me come back to where I began, which was what inspired you to be part of this large conversation that you've created. How can young women become more active participants in this conversation around corporate law, around the work that you've already done? How can they carry it forward?
They are very active, Shubho. Don't think that women are less vocal nowadays. They are as bright, if not brighter.
Mm-hmm.
They have enough passion. I think what they need to understand is that because of just what you are, which is a woman,
Mm-hmm.
there are life decisions which will necessarily slow you down a bit for some time. And as long as you are willing to come back with the same amount of commitment, which can only happen if you love what you're doing, it's merely a job, it's easier to give up. If you are inspired by what you're doing every day and you have that ounces of self respect that you need to nurture.
So, what does the future of corporate law look like in India if you compare it to the developments that are taking place globally? How does India stack up?
I think our law firms will continue to do well. I think the real problem that all of us have as major law firms is that there's not enough talent we can recruit. The work is not the problem. The law schools, which are very good, they don't throw out more than a collective 500-600 lawyers every year.
You need more.
Much more. And those are shared between Indian law firms, foreign law firms, in-house counsel, litigation, LLMs. So, you don't necessarily get enough of the great young students who are passing out. Every law firm would like more, according to me.
Finally, let me come to a leadership question, a leadership issue. Increasingly, the modern world, the modern corporate world, is moving from just strategic thinking to empathy, to a purpose driven leadership, creating an ecosystem which has become more of an enabler. What are the trends that you're spotting in the larger leadership, thought leadership conversation? And how is it going to take India to the next level of growth?
The narrative has certainly changed. There is no slave-driven culture where you're just expected to do what you're told. There is definitely a consensus-building culture, which involves people who are part of your leadership. I think the youngsters have a greater sense of wanting to debate and argue than maybe 20 years ago, where they would just accept what a senior said. And I think that, if the empathy factor is not there, you will lose talent, because talent is so sought after that if people are not happy in their workplace in a holistic way, they have so many choices. So, do you like your colleagues? Do you like your boss? Do you like what you do? Do you like what the firm stands for? Do you like the kind of work that you're getting? Do you think you're treated fairly? Is it a happy environment? Every environment has its ups and downs. But by and large, do you look forward to coming every day? That's what you have to create.
In one of the workplace surveys, one of the most important parameters was a happy workplace. How do you think we can create happy workplaces in this country, which go beyond the stress of work, which go beyond the targets that we meet?
So I don't think stress makes you unhappy. I think good stress is just great.
Yes.
I have it every day. I think the important thing is people in an organization should not feel that I'm just being used, but I'm being valued. And I'm being valued because I work, but because I think. So, if somebody is just going to put in 12 hours a day and throw out something which is substandard, that person is either not vested in that document or the work product, or is not passionate. But if that person takes ownership of a product or a matter or a client and feels empowered by the organization that, yes, this is something which you should be taking credit for, then I think it's a very different mindset. People are happy. I guess the important thing is to keep learning where one could be better. But there's a difference between a happy workplace and a spoilt workplace. You don't want people playing table tennis while they're supposed to be working.
Absolutely.
Right? On the other hand, you don't want to make people meet deadlines which are not required to be met. Sometimes clients insist on unreasonable deadlines, and you have to step in and say, look, this is unreasonable. And the client may not like it, and the junior won't be able to say it. And that's where the partner has to come in and say, look, I don't think it's a Friday night issue. Give it to you Monday, Tuesday, stuff like that. But a client who only phones you on Friday night at 10 o'clock and says he wants it at Monday morning at 9 o'clock, that's a client that needs to be trained.
Hmm. And let me come to some quick questions, a rapid fire.
Okay.
And these are questions that have come from our viewers. The mentor who shaped your career the most?
So I have two mentors. The one that shaped my career the most in America was a partner called Norman Miller, where I did corporate law. And what he always taught me was put on the right hat. In India, my mentor is, he's now in Canada, a senior called Obed Chinoy, who taught me my list of dates and who gave of me his time when he could have spent it with his family. He was totally committed to seeing that I became a passionate lawyer, and therefore I became a good lawyer, and therefore I stayed the course despite my three wonderful children.
How important is lifelong learning then?
How can lifelong learning go away? It is basically something that just becomes you. And it is an automatic DNA that once at a young age, if someone has inculcated it in you and you were the vehicle that could absorb that, then it's you.
Most misunderstood law in India today?
I think more than misunderstood, I think misused is probably the criminal statutes, because they're used just as a way of negotiating or threatening or bargaining. I think some of our SEBI laws can be rewritten just to make them simpler, not that they are, bad laws.
What business leader you admire for integrity?
I think Chanda, I've
Right.
always thought he's done a great job.
Opinion on this: AI in law, threat or opportunity?
Complete opportunity.
If you had the power to change one law in India, what would that be?
Criminal law.
On that note, thank you very much for taking time to speak to us here at ET Edge Insights. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Most welcome, sure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.